Namaste. Welcome to another trigger proof transmission. Today we're going to talk about something that was inspired by a conversation that I had on Facebook Messenger with somebody who's been inquiring and following, this group for quite some time, and was just feeling in this state of like hopelessness and depression. And um, it really inspired me to answer this question and look in and really find some explanations for you if you've been really struggling with uh, in the mental game, sluggishness, slowness, feeling of hopelessness, feeling of despair. She's been depressed for a long time, and she had the conversation that she was basically saying, I had a happy childhood. Everything was good. Let me know if you can resonate with that. I had a happy childhood. Everything was good. I didn't have anything super duper bad. If you're one of the lucky people who didn't have anything super duper bad happen to you, so why am I so depressed? Why am I still depressed? I think I've been told, she said, that I have a chemical imbalance, and I just don't make enough serotonin, and that's what it is. And I really want to encourage you to not think that way. First of all, the chemical imbalance theory, I want you to know, has been debunked. It's not necessarily true that you, as a human being, have a deficiency of these chemicals, and we need to take a pill that stops us from absorbing that keeps the serotonin levels high in our system. And so trying to convince you that you have a chemical imbalance is a really clever way of having you completely disempowered. Your choices don't really matter, and you're always going to be this way. And what happens is you think that you're broken, so you start to view the world from a broken lens. And what happens to hope? What happens to possibility? My choices don't really matter. I just got to take these and I'll always be unhappy. And I really wanted uh, to change and flip the script on that. It's been, on one hand, when you get a diagnosis, first of all, if you're brand new to this group, welcome. Let me know where you're signing in from. My name's Dr. Nima Rahmany. I've been a chiropractor for the last 20 years almost, and realizing that I just had to go upstream and talk about nervous system regulation and stress, because if you don't really get the foundation of how to become more resilient in your nervous system, then nothing on the outside really ever works. Nothing lasts. And so over the last 5 years, I have developed a methodology called the Overview Method, which helps us. I discovered, for me, by accident, I came up with this because I had to heal my past, my childhood woundings that weren't just intellectual processes, but they were actually in my body. So unknowingly, I created a methodology called the Overview Method that helps people heal their attachment wounds. Why? Because I made a discovery that everybody coming in with chronic pains and chronic illnesses, most of the time, were dealing with unresolved emotional injuries that were contributing to their physical injuries. Let me say that again. Emotional injuries were contributing to their physiology. And what I discovered was, by helping people heal their emotional injuries and wounds, they became more resilient. They started healing in their body, connecting to their purpose. And excuse me, it's not COVID. I was hooked. Lo and behold, I was hooked. 5 years ago, I sold my practice, and slowly I've been moving to an online kind of group live trainings, and then now I have an online kind of community of self-healers, which we learn the art of nervous system regulation, self-regulation, and co-regulation, where we all learn the skills to become more resilient and adaptable and increase the capacity for stress and heal our attachment wounds. We do this all together. That's why you're here. That's why you're in this conversation, is because somebody invited you here because they thought that you would be wise to start learning these tools so that you can have better emotional regulation, heal your body from whatever kind of chronic problems. Mainly if you're dealing with digestive issues, This is for you. Mainly if you're dealing with autoimmune issues, this is for you. And if you're dealing with chronic illness, this is for you. This is the missing piece. The missing link is healing those attachment traumas. And so what was curious about this case was she said, I don't have any trauma. And so I went on a search and I looked at my case files. I looked at, did some research, and I found that there are 8 common human experiences that you will go through unknowingly, and it will create, that are traumatic, that you don't even know it. You don't give it attention, you step over it, it's not that big of a deal. They're not really seen that way, but they are, and they have an impact on our nervous system. And if you were lucky enough, like that young lady who reached out to me, who had, not dealt with trauma from a capital T perspective, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and you got lucky, and you got through without that, and you still feel this heaviness, this inability to kind of push past the resistance of life. You know what I'm talking about, the lethargy. 2 things we got to contend with, all of us, is fear and lethargy. This feeling of lethargicness and this fear of the unknown that we face each and every day. Without a properly regulated nervous system, then we don't have an ability to deal and meet this unknown. So the whole conversation is about healing those attachment wounds, and wounds that you might not even be aware of. So let me go into them right away. The first one is near-death experiences, a common human experience that is very traumatic to your nervous system, but you don't really see it that way. So if you ever choked on something, or near drowning experience, your body, as it prepares for, like, it's fighting for its survival in that moment, guess what? That's trauma, and it gets stored in the body, and you might not recognize it or realize it until later on when it becomes triggered, usually in a relationship. One of my clients sexually abused as a child, and it was kind of like a near-death type of situation. Then she gets into a car accident in her 50s. All of a sudden, neck pain, like whiplash, couldn't hardly move. Within 1 week, full-blown post-traumatic stress disorder, memories and of kind of those early experiences of those traumas. So they're laying dormant in your body, and they usually will get triggered by a kind of like when your nervous system gets really activated. That's number one. Let me know, by the way, I'd really want you to be kind of in part of this conversation. Let me know if you experienced any of those. Okay, just say yes, and let's make this kind of engaging. All right, I want you to engage with me. Number 2, if you've ever had surgery or anesthetics, you don't notice that that's trauma, but it is. You're literally getting cut open. Tonsillectomy as a child can lay dormant in your body, and then you get older, you get into a relationship, something happens, something triggers it, and boom, all of a sudden your body goes into this completely dysregulated state. It's like a PTSD happening again, and then now all of your relationships are impacted. So especially if you've ever had the experience when one of the clients that we worked with, she had a surgery and then kind of like woke up in the middle of surgery, kind of like came to and realized, oh my God, they're cutting me open. That's pretty traumatic, and that's stored in your body. Number 3, a premature or a highly traumatic birth. If you were a premature baby, or you had a highly traumatic birth, your little nervous system has taken in a lot. There's not a lot of resilience at that time, right? So it makes sense your body will go into maybe a dissociative state, problems with breathing, failure to thrive. This is why getting them checked at a chiropractor. I check little infants. My baby's going to be born in 4 to 6 weeks. Not sure when. It's coming soon, and I know that that's going to be a traumatic time. When I did breath work for the very first time, I went back to my birth. I didn't even realize it's not something I consciously remembered, but it was stored in my body. and it was creating this dysregulated kind of background state of alarm. And that's where anxiety will be held in your body, and you don't remember anything. You're like, I'm fine. Why am I feeling such a resistance to life? Early traumatic, in premature or highly traumatic birth. Number four, in utero stress. So I want you to think of how your mother and father, how they were experiencing life. What was their relationship like? Did your mother feel safe that she was going to be giving birth and to a family where she didn't, she wasn't wondering, am I going to be okay? In utero stress, you don't realize it, will is an unconscious trauma. It's a traumatic experience for a baby. This is why I actually created this Facebook group. I started it at the beginning of COVID because I knew that, how, as we went into this unknown, I knew that my wife, who's pregnant, the way that she's feeling, her state of her nervous system is going to be impacting the child's. So guess what became super duper important to me? Teaching nervous system regulation and living it. I'm living what I'm teaching because this is super duper important to me. I have a child on the way. And so I want to make sure that this child has a nervous system that hasn't been overloaded in its capacity. And that's really in utero stress. One of the clients that we worked with, she calls herself an empath. She's highly sensitive and attuned to other people. And I said, well, that usually comes often from trauma from childhood, or she's like hyper attuned and also dealing with codependency. And she said, no, I never had any traumas, nothing like that. And I said, well, what was it like when your mother was giving was when you were in utero? And she said, oh, my father kind of left. He just wasn't part of the picture, and it was just my mom, and she was alone. So she had a lot of stress. And I'm like, bingo. So this isn't your mother's fault. This isn't a blame game. This is just to help you understand, because when you have the information, now you know exactly what to do. Rather than sit back and just go, oh, I have a chemical imbalance. None of my choices matter. I'm just going to take these, and I'm just going to pretty much just read some books, and nothing really works. And avoid the real work. The real work, which is healing those attachment wounds. Number five, parental depression. If you had an experience with a parent that is unwell and unable to care for and connect with the children, you as a child, they had alcoholism, they had all sorts of crazy shit going on in their lives, and they weren't able to emotionally attune to you. Your physical needs might have been met, but your emotional needs weren't met, and your reality was often not, was denied. That's trauma to a child. It's extremely traumatic. And you end up, when you don't actually heal that, you end up getting into relationships that are very similar to those patterns. And you start to feel kind of familiarity with people, and you want to rescue people, and you want to kind of please and fix because of that old emotional injury of not feeling seen and heard. It's pretty big. Let me know if any of these are resonating with you. So number one is near-death experience. Number two is surgery and anesthetic. Number three is premature or highly traumatic birth. Number four is in utero stress. Number five, parental depression, or a parent that was unwell, an addiction perhaps, and unable to care for and connect with the kids. Huge attachment trauma there, spilling into your relationships. Number six is, this is a big one, she was also part of a faith and a religion that had some, like many do, in a good way, but also it can go wrong. Societal decencies and cultural conditioning. Societal decencies, cultural conditioning. She happens to be Persian, coming from a family with, strong religious morals and upbringing, which I had as well. I had that as well. The problem is that when you're bred to be good, to be quiet, and to be proper, It can also breed a sense of toxic shame, which causes us to self abandon. We do need a healthy dose of shame, but when this societal and cultural conditioning becomes like so polarized that you feel unworthy of love if you don't fall into that category, that's traumatic to your nervous system. Does that resonate with anybody? And so it's another one. Let me give you an example. I had example of this young lady in her 40s, and when she was 4 years old, her mother had kind of like an OCD type of thing with going to the bathroom. So she just didn't want her to be dirty and just completely had OCD. And so, as a 4 year old, she had this experience of having to withhold her bladder, withhold her bladder, because she was because of the trauma of she didn't want to disappoint her mother. So there was a cultural kind of family type of conditioning embedded in her. Guess what the impact was? Throughout her entire life, she was not able to go to the bathroom outside of her home. If there was somebody waiting at the office, she would just be like withholding her own uh, impulses to go to the bathroom because of that trauma, because of the fear of disappointing mom. Does this resonate with you? Let me know if any of this is landing for you. This is a big one. So this then is this is an unspoken trauma. This is one of them. And number 7 is intergenerational trauma. This is one of our clients. Her grandfather was in the concentration camps. You don't think that spills over? My parents, going through the war, if you went through the Great Depression, all of that gets spilled over, and you unconsciously catch on. Who hasn't been dealing with that? We are all the product of it in some way, and it impacts our nervous system, causing a dysregulation and this feeling of a background alarm happening all the time, this lack of safety happening in your body. And so that's there. Now, my client from the last example, when she uncovered this, we started doing the overview method and giving her some specific regulating tools, and within 2 weeks she's able to now go to the bathroom publicly. She's been able to, once we cleared that attachment trauma, once we cleared that wound that she didn't really know was there until it came up in one of the sessions, she was able to actually heal that. And now she's going to the bathroom. Like, this was a big deal. She messages me, yay, win, I'm going to the bathroom. I'm publicly going to the bathroom. I'm able to release and let go. That's a big deal. Number 7 was the intergenerational trauma. Some of the work we're doing, Laura, who is in our community, her grandfather is in the concentration camps. And so when she got this, she was like, holy shit. No wonder I've been anxious all the time. In her life, she's been picking at her skin. She's got all sorts of anxieties, divorce, kind of codependency, and she's now unpacking all of that, healing with her ex, and it's pretty powerful. She stopped picking her skin. It's pretty powerful. She got it. She was like, no wonder. It didn't start with me, but it can end with me. So that was powerful. And the number 8 is the need to be perfect. The need to perform for love and attention. This was my upbringing. This need to perform for love and attention. If you ever had that experience that, oh my gosh, I need to perform in fitness, in sports, in artistic, creative stuff, in plays, education, grades. I need to perform to be good, to be accepted. That is an unconscious form of trauma. It's not trauma with a capital T. It's traumatic to a young nervous system that immediately makes meaning that they're unworthy of love. And these are 8 of the most common normal human experiences that are traumatic to the nervous system. And so that's a big reason why, even if you haven't had the big kahuna, you can still have this feeling of sluggishness and this background anxiety going on because there is stuff still in your body. I stand for healed families, and the work that I do is really about transforming that and getting to the root cause of it at the body based level. And the methodology, hey Cinder, what's up, buddy? The methodology I created is called the overview method. And it's designed two reasons. Number one, it's a cognitive and a body based methodology that heals those attachment traumas. Which ones? Even the ones you're not aware of. If you're willing to allow, how do we heal them all? Well, we can't. We have to be willing to learn the tools so that whenever one comes up, usually in the form of a trigger, that's why I call this trigger proof, we're able to go back and then find it with those younger parts of us that we've abandoned so that we could perform, so that we could be good, so that we could feel safe and have the attachment of our caregivers, so that we could kind of take care of making sure that everything was okay with mom and dad and abandoning ourselves. The problem is, if we don't get this right, what happens is we then pass it on to the next generation. I just want you to imagine your life if your parents just decided, I'm going to take on the healing of those attachment wounds. I'm going to take them on. It didn't start with me. It's not my parents' fault. It's not my fault. I'm tired of this blame and victim game. I don't want to be the victim, and I don't want to blame myself. I just want to heal. And this is exactly why we have this community, and that's what this the overview experience is all about. I'm going to leave a link in the comment section. Excuse me. On Sunday, we're actually going to town. I'm teaching my community, and it's open to those who feel called and are ready to say enough and are ready to basically say, I'm ready to heal those attachment wounds. There's a link in the comment section, and it's going to show you the page, the landing page that kind of describes what you're going to expect. And it's so good that I have a satisfaction guaranteed, a money back guarantee on the event. If you're not satisfied afterwards with what you learn and you're not inspired to go deeper, you get a full refund. And just to help you feel safer about the decision, I stand for healed families. I've created this community because I want my world, my child, to be raised in a world where people take responsibility for their healing, so that we can have a community and a world where nervous systems are regulated and we're not in a chronic kind of sweep of post-traumatic stress that we're seeing. Like, I want healing to go viral, and that's why you're here, is because you're a revolutionary and you want to actually be part of the solution. And we can't solve all of these problems that are going on externally outside of us until we heal the attachment wounds that are inside, and that's what this is all about. So I'd love for you to check out that link and join us on Sunday. Send me a DM sharing with me your story. If you let me know if this would be right for you. This is ideal if you're dealing with relationship struggles. Should I stay or should I go? You're divorced or separated, or you're still not healed from a breakup. You're carrying the weight of the grief with you, and you want to learn a tool how to dissolve the grief from a somatic based level, not just a cognitive one, not just doing lines and columns of the DeMartini method, but actually learning how to get into the body. This is for you. And so let me know what came up for you, what resonated for you in this training, and I'll see you at the next perfect time.